ready to go?
Although speeches and the messages within them have evolved over time, one thing has remained the same. Words have always had a large influence on listeners and a great potential to spark change. This is shown through Amanda Gorman's speech, The Hill We Climb, as she paints a picture of optimism and hope with her words to make an impact on listeners. Regardless of the time period a speech was given, a speech which instills core values and hope will stick with listeners well into the future. And this is true for people who had the pleasure of hearing Amanda Gorman's speech, The Hill We Climb. Without it, many people would not have the desire to make progress toward a better society. Amanda Gorman used optimism and passion to connect with people across America, ensuring them that change is not only near, but also possible. About the speaker. Amanda Gorman is an American poet and activist who often uses her work to address issues she is passionate about. She is a young Black woman who also became the first person to receive the National Youth Poet Laureate. This is a pretty remarkable accomplishment, and she did this despite her speech impediment and auditory processing disorder. And she also delivered an effective speech which inspired people with similar conditions. The speech was given at President Joe Biden's inauguration at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. on January 20th, 2021. There was an in-person audience at this inauguration and it was also broadcasted to many people. The purpose of her speech was personally to inspire people and change across the nation, but she also had to fulfill the needs of this specific speech at the inauguration. And now I'll show you a short clip.
Be the heirs of such a hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left with. Every breath from our bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-rimmed hills of the west. We will rise from the wind-swept northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked south. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade of flame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there was always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. Be the heirs of such a...
As you can see from that clip, she speaks very beautifully, but there's also a lot of significance packed within her speech. This specific speech was given only a few days after rallying Trump supporters invaded the Capitol, which caused a lot of political turmoil in our country. The significance of this speech at the time was to unite us and have hope for a better tomorrow. Although this specific circumstance is not the case anymore, there is still a lot of areas within the United States in which we can improve upon, so the message is still very relevant. The speech also is significant because it created a platform for Amanda Gorman and her increasing popularity, and is allowing her to have the opportunity to reach and impact more people. The speech will endure because the execution was very excellent, and she remains optimistic while strongly getting her points across. The message is applicable to a wide range of audiences and circumstances, so it will be utilized into the future to inspire hope. She also used Aristotle's 3 modes of appeal to make an effective speech. She used ethos in 2 ways to establish credibility. The first being referencing the Bible, a very valued and credible source in the lives of many people. She says, Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. She also addresses the audience to establish credibility at the beginning of her speech by saying, Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. She also uses pathos to apply to the emotions of listeners by showing the increased opportunities she has experienced as a member of a minority group. She says, we are the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. This allows the listeners to feel connected not only to her as a speaker, but also emotional to other people with specific or similar circumstances. She applies and expresses logical statements regarding the inclusion of all people and the current state of the United States by saying we are striving to forge a union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. As a poet, Amanda is an expert at packing rhetorical devices into her work, but here are 3 that I will be talking about today. Anaphora, which is the repeating of same word or words at the beginning of successive phrases, and she says, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it. A metaphor, a comparison using like or as. She compares the adversity we have overcame as a country to the belly of the beast, as she says, we have braved the belly of the beast. She also used parallelism, which is successive words or phrases with similar or same structure. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped. In conclusion, Amanda Gorman inspired many people with her remarkable speech, which not only utilized optimism and passion, but included numerous rhetorical devices and modes of persuasion. She ensured people that change is achievable, and her words will continue to inspire people into the